Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to cover 4 tips to help you take better photos with one of these. One of these, as if like I should have just said a phone. It's a phone. Alright, so the idea for this video came because I hike with a lot of different people, and one of the things that I notice almost every single time we hike and we reach a summit is people take out their phones and they go like this. And as somebody who's been doing photography for a few years now, you know that your eyesight is not always the best angle you want to use to showcase different things, whether that be a landscape, a portrait, etc. I put a poll out on Instagram and I got a lot of feedback for people who were looking for some tips to take better photos with their phones. So today we're covering 4 tips. You don't need a professional camera. If you listen to these tips, do a little bit more research, I guarantee you're gonna start taking better photographs, even if it's with your phone, a newer one, a previous one, whatever it is, you will notice a change. So let's jump straight into it. All right, first tip is to align your horizon. If you've been following my channel for a while now, you'll know that one of my first Lightroom tips that I did was on aligning your horizon. There's nothing worse than going somewhere, getting to somewhere beautiful, putting in the work to get there, taking out your phone, and taking a crooked landscape photo. There's a natural aesthetic that comes to the eye because we know the horizon is straight. I have an example here of a beach photo I took. It's a bit exaggerated, but as you can see, if I took something like this, your horizon immediately jumps out to me as being like, whoa, that is not what the beach looks like. By aligning the horizon, and even then it's still a tiny little bit off, you can see the photo just looks so much better. And I'm gonna walk you through enabling the grid system on your phone so that you can get your phone to help you straighten out these horizons. All right, tip number 2, try different angles. As I mentioned, everybody always shows up. Go anywhere where people are taking pictures and just look around. And I guarantee you the majority of people are sitting there, eyesight right there like this. It's natural, right? That's where we pull up, that's what we see. However, what we see is not always the best perspective we want to show. So try different angles. With smaller subjects, dogs, kids, get lower to the ground. It gives you a different perspective and it fills the frame more with them, which is what you're normally showcasing. Here we have a picture of my dog. I bent down a little bit. She's not looking, but you can already see being a little bit more eye level with my little fur animal makes the photo look a lot better. Next up, I have an old photo from when flowers were blooming at Torrey Pines, and you can see getting down here a little bit lower, getting closer to the flowers, getting them a little bit straighter with my horizon makes this photo really, really beautiful. It makes it pop a little bit more, and it really draws the eyes straight down the middle of the flower fields onto Drew, our model, and the picture overall. Sometimes when I'm out in the mountains, I want to bend down, get a little bit lower, get a little bit of the perspective of where I am standing, whether that's on a cliff, edge, am I on a field, etc. So I pulled up this image here. You can see that by adding a little bit of the rocks that I'm standing, it kind of invites the viewer to come in and say, oh, this is where I would be if I was here looking at this in person. And that adds a lot to your photo. This also covers bringing something into the foreground, but I'm gonna cover that in a little bit. Now, you don't always need to get low. Sometimes you need to get a little bit higher. When I'm taking portraits, I tend to shoot chin up. Unless there's a reason, you never really shoot chin down because then people's double chins get exposed, and that doesn't make a good portrait. But for landscape photography here, we're looking at Stanley Peak. So we have a picture here of Vanessa. We are a little bit higher than eye level, which is fine, and you can kind of see the city behind her. It gives you a little bit of perspective as to where we are. Now, if I go up a little bit more and I angle now the photo down, this changes the composition completely, apart from the fact that I added in some stuff in the foreground that's blurry. This now looks like we are way higher than where I showed you in the photo before. And if I angle it up a little bit more and remove the sky, now it just feels like we are very, very far away from the ground, from where that street, the freeway is there in this image. So get low, get high, get creative. If you get somewhere, take your phone out and you're holding it like this, snap out of it. The third tip we're covering is to remove distractions from your frame / have a focal point. Now, what do I mean by that? A good photograph engages the viewer and invites them in to explore the photograph, but stay within the frame. I know that sounds like a bit of a weird concept, but I'll show you guys in some pictures that I took a few years ago when I was in Oregon, almost terrible photos I want to call them, and compare those to some recent photos that I took when I was hiking in Mammoth. All right, so here is one photo we have actually on the side of Washington. The other side of this river is Oregon. As you can see, it's got beautiful colors, beautiful photo, but the first thing that draws my eyes are these tree branches that are sticking in on the sides here. They completely take away my focus from this photo and draw me to the outsides of the frame. In this next example, same thing. I look at this photo and I see a wasted opportunity. The railing here provides the viewer somewhere to look because it's directing you somewhere. If I were to get a little bit lower to the ground, focus on those beautiful leaves on the ground, apply my rule of thirds with my wife and the umbrella, leave some negative space on my right-hand side where we can see there's fog and a hill, this photo I think could have been great. However, the way I took this at eye level, all I see are these branches sticking in from the sides that just draw my attention completely away from where I'm supposed to be looking. Now, this is a recent photo I took at the beginning of this year up in Mammoth Lakes. As you can see here, my frame is clean. There are no branches coming in distracting. The first thing I see when I look at this image is the beautiful, beautiful green trees and the clear lake right in front of it. There's nothing drawing my attention to the outsides of the frame, which is great. Another example is at Twin Lakes. Here we have the same thing. We have some trees on the sides, but there's no branches, anything that really distracts from the overall image. And part of the reason why I like this image so much is because this emptiness in the water where the grass should be kind of directs your eyes. When you first look onto this, I kind of look here and then it draws this sort of S pattern that goes up, and then I focus onto the sky, which is really the main focus of this image. That's why I'm a bit lower to the ground and angling it upwards. When you're taking a picture, step back and look at the edges of your frame. You'll be surprised by how many photos you have where there's blurry leaves, dead tree branches, just things that are taking away from what you're trying to show your viewer with your photo. All right, fourth and final tip here is use depth and scale to your advantage. Now, what do I mean by that? Depth helps you understand where things are within the frame. While we see with our own eyes things in 3 dimensions, a photograph will always take it in 2. Leading lines such as roads, rivers, elements in our foreground, and even light can really help create depth in your photo so that it gives the perception that it is in 3D. Let's look at some examples. Here's a photo I have that I took at Zion. Again, get a little bit closer to the ground. This road is what directs your eye. It makes you feel like you're here and the road is going and turning on to the right. This doesn't make you feel like it's a flat photo because of the road. It draws your attention going into this direction, obviously beyond the photo itself. Another similar photo situation I took in Sequoia, it draws your attention here and your eyes just naturally go to where the road is. This is a picture I took at Lawson Peak. You can see you feel like you're in between the rocks and there's things beyond the rocks. Another road photo from Sequoia, same deal here. Your eyes kind of follow this winding road. And this last shot is actually something I've already made a video of. And here we're combining 2 elements. We're combining light and we're combining bringing something into the foreground to create depth. These rocks at the bottom of the image help create a sense of distance. How far are you from where you're standing? Ideally where you're inviting the viewer to come in and look at the photo the way you're looking at it from everything else. Now, some of this can be photographer preference, but if you crop out these rocks here, it just looks like a lot of empty space and then stuff in the back. It doesn't really tell you how far away that is. Now, as I mentioned in the video where I talk about this, in this specific photo, the light was cutting through perfectly. You darken some of those darks, you brighten some of those brights, and immediately you notice that now the photo feels like the hills are right in front of the other. This no longer feels like a 2D image. When it comes to scale, is adding things into your frame so that people get a sense of how big or how small something is. As an example, Eagle Rock found on the PCT is a very popular spot to stop at and take some photos. It's a pretty big rock formation. However, if I don't include the model here, Jordan, you don't really get a sense of how big this rock formation is. So by including her in the photo, now you feel like, oh man, this rock formation is actually pretty big. It's the same thing with big trees, big waterfalls. Include people or other things in the frame to give a little bit of perspective of this scale. Here I have a photo in Sequoia, my son running through some trees. Adding my son into this photo makes the trees look huge, and they are huge, but without it, you might just think I'm very zoomed into the trunk of a tree. Here's another example at a different time of Sequoia. I had my friend there, and she's standing in the middle, and it gives you a sense of how big these trees are by having somebody stand there in the middle. This photo here is of Multnomah Falls, and it would have been awesome to have somebody standing at the bottom so you can get that scale, but you do see the bridge and some people on there, and that helps you get that scale perspective of this waterfall is huge. All right, those are your 4 tips. Now, did you catch something? If you're more familiar with photography, the first thing that should come to your mind as I'm talking about all this stuff is composition. Composition is, I don't want to say the most important thing, but it is one of the most important things when it comes to photography. And it's something that I'm sure even professional photographers struggle with a lot. There's a lot that goes into composition, and I didn't want to cover that here because we could have hour-long lectures on composition. But all these things tie into how you frame a photo. And with that, I leave you with the words of Ansel Adams, who said, "You don't take a picture, you make a picture." You plan, you check it out. Some of my best photos are from locations that I've been to a ton of times because now I know where I'm looking. When I'm out in Mount Laguna, I know what all these places look like when it's sunrise, when it's middle of the day, when it's sunset, where's the sun, where's it cutting off. All these different details. There's a lot of planning involved and a lot that goes into these photos. For many people that are not this deep into photography, just knowing how to frame your photos from your phone will make a huge, huge difference in the quality of your photography. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like, but you know what to do. Give it a like, a comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Please make sure you follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/beautyiswild with 2 eyes, the YouTube channel at youtube.com/beautyiswild with 2 eyes, and my website at www.beautyiswild.com with 2 eyes. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to cover down below, and I'll see you guys soon.